Hey, I'm Tom.
And I'm John.
And we're the co-founders of Handsome Frank Illustration Agency.
In this series, we'll be sitting down and talking to our illustrators, finding out more about them, their artistic process, and the creative industry we work in.
Welcome to our podcast.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. It's nearly Christmas.
I know. I did that classic thing of Black Friday sales, brought nothing, waited them to finish, and then thought, I need to buy some stuff.
Yeah, and everything. I had a load of stuff in it. Anyway, I had a load of stuff in the basket that went up in price.
Yeah,
which is annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it's nearly Christmas. We had our Christmas party last week, which was fun.
Still recovering.
Still recovering a little bit.
I just found a crisp on the shelf over there.
There's still a little bit.
The other day
aftermath.
I found a discarded wine glass.
Yeah, so shout out to the late night crew who didn't leave till very late on.
You know who you are.
And apologies to the neighbours for the noise. But moving on, one of the things we did during Christmas lunch was arrange a podcast.
Yeah.
And we're very happy to have a guest with us today whose surname we've just learned to pronounce properly. So
After what, 2 years?
So welcome to the podcast and welcome to the office, Marylou Faure.
Thank you. Almost.
Almost, go on.
Correct us.
Marylou Faure.
Okay,
Marylou Faure.
it's good. I can't do a French accent.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks. I'm very happy to be here.
Cool. So, how are things? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Very similar story to you, Tom. Just went panicked Christmas shopping just after Black Friday. So very non-economical. But yeah, I'm good. Getting into the Christmas spirit.
Are you quite an organised person?
Yes, I am very organized.
Yeah.
Except when I'm not. But yeah, most of the time I try to be.
So you're all set for Christmas, and I can kind of see that organisation element to your personality in your work.
Yeah.
I think.
How so?
Well, there's definitely an order to things.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we should start. Well, obviously we should start by talking about your work. But tell us, if you can. And this is quite a hard question, but can you describe your work for people who've never seen it?
Yeah, I can. I would say it's colourful, playful, joyful, quite graphic, and focusing a lot on women and the female form.
Yeah, and that's something I want to come back to and talk about. But before we get into that too much, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I moved to London in 2012, and that's when I started working. So I did 3 years, like in-house or like a bit of freelancing or internships at the start. And then I started my freelance career in 2015.
So were you working as a graphic designer at this point, or?
I was kind of doing graphic design jobs, but not really enjoying them. And then I got a full-time job as a in-house illustrator.
Okay.
It's a company called Nice and Serious. And that's when I went into the route of becoming an illustrator, because I wasn't really sure at the beginning. I was just all over the place.
I feel like that around that time, sort of 2012, I'd say like the world discovered illustration, but it was a time when brands really, really embraced it.
Yeah, I agree. When I arrived in London, I was like, okay, there's so much work possible.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit of an explosion around that time. So you say you arrived in London, but you grew up here as well.
Yeah, so basically I've been in between France and the UK my whole life, but I've mainly been in London because I grew up here from when I was 4 until I was 14. I was born in Paris, moved here when I was 4, went back to Paris when I was 14, and came back here when I was 23.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So do you consider yourself Parisian or a Londoner?
I don't know anymore. I'm lost. I definitely feel more like I don't feel Parisian because I was never there during like those, I think those like important years.
Yeah.
But I have obviously a lot of love for Paris. And then I love London. I kind of feel like a Londoner, but also not. So I'm a bit in between.
Okay, somewhere in the channel.
Somewhere in the channel, exactly, yeah. That's where I am.
Okay, so you came back in 2012.
Yeah.
You're working in-house as an illustrator. And at that point, do you have a style, or are you being asked to emulate and you know, adapt
Yeah.
to what the client requires.
Definitely very different depending on the brief that we received. I also had a personal style, which was actually very different because when I studied at Penningen in Paris, I was doing a very like tortured black and white, thin lines, monster style, very Tim Burton inspired.
Okay.
Very nice.
I didn't want to go anywhere near colors because I didn't know how to use them properly. And then when I moved to London and I discovered this whole artistic scene, which was just amazing and vibrant and very graphic and cool, I started working on developing a style that was more like aligned with how I was, because I was actually I'm actually a very happy person. So
What kind of process are you using at that stage? Was it Illustrator? Or?
No, it was always. I have never used Illustrator. I always do everything on Photoshop and then now on Procreate. I always sketch manually, like just pen and pencil and paper. But yeah, otherwise, Photoshop really.
Okay. So you moved to London.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's kind of a bit of a scene. Who were the people that were kind of your idols at that point? Who were you looking at and thinking, wow, that's where I want to get?
Yeah. I discovered the work of Hattie Stewart, who's like still one of my biggest inspiration. Malika Favre, obviously, who's a friend of Handsome Frank as well. And who else was there? Para.
Yeah.
Amazing work, really inspired me to do things a bit more in a graphic way, which I thought was interesting. And then loads of other artists. I discovered Jean Julien, and I thought his sort of sense of humor in his work was really interesting. And those were the main ones when I arrived in London. I think I went to a Pick Me Up.
Yeah.
I was going to
Fair.
say that was also the time of,
Yeah.
of exhibitions.
Yeah.
All the time. Private views. Where were you in East? Were you in East London or?
No, at the time I was in West Hampstead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
and
but
then I moved.
the first Thursday scene, which actually recently some people in our neighbourhood in Clerkenwell, Farringdon, are trying to kind of bring back a little bit, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I used to love that first Thursday thing where you could go see maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different shows in an evening, grab a beer,
Yeah.
and you'd kind of be guaranteed that you'd bump into people you knew and other artists.
Yeah.
It was a really nice time.
I have a friend who's really good at just finding a bunch of exhibitions to see all in one
that's a
area.
good friend.
Yeah, she's a great friend, Anu, shout out to you. And she always does these little plans of exhibition days, and yeah, I don't know how she gets all these info, but
That's cool.
It's really cool.
You need a friend like that.
yeah.
Yeah, so you're working in house at an agency. At this point, you haven't really found your style.
No, yeah.
How did you begin to find that kind of unique style and voice that you have today?
I think I just worked a lot on my portfolio, and I just gave myself loads of different fictional projects to see where that could take my work.
Okay, so fictional projects. So you're setting yourself.
I'm setting
briefs?
myself up. Basically, I was really, as soon as I started working in-house, I knew I wanted to not work
nice.
in-house. So
You know, there's so many illustrators struggle to do that.
yeah,
Set their own brief.
yeah.
It's such a simple thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's the part of the organizer in me that's like, okay, just give yourself a fake project and the inspiration will come because you literally are creating your own perfect brief. But I can see
Can you
how that
remember
can
what
be
the
hard.
brief was?
Yeah, can you give us an example?
Yes, I do actually. One of the first projects where I did something that I was proud of and actually shared was some series of postcards and posters called The Ultimate Summer. And I asked a bunch of people what was the one thing that they associated to summer or that they looked forward to the most during summertime. And loads of people replied on Instagram.
Oh, so this is like a social.
It was like a social
media,
thing where I just
yeah.
asked everyone. And then I did this like ultimate poster with like maybe it was about 24 like postcards put together. And yeah, I think that was really good because I didn't really have to think of the creative process because people were giving me their answers and I could feed off that. And then that project got a lot of views and attention, and I think it really kick-started things for me because I started getting projects for that or inquiries for freelance work.
Yeah.
And that's when I left my job.
So, and do you remember, was there a specific moment where you thought, okay, now is the time to make this? Because I think that's really hard for
Yeah.
anyone who wants to make that leap, is knowing when is the time to kind of go for it.
Honestly, I think it's when I started being happy with my portfolio, and that hadn't happened. I knew I was going in the right direction, but I didn't feel confident enough. And I was like, you need more, you need something stronger, or more so that you can really show yourself off for what you do. And then, when I started doing projects that started looking really good to my eyes, then I put my portfolio together and I was like, okay, cool, I'm ready.
And was there, did you have other people that you were sharing your work with to kind of get their opinion?
Yeah. Well, my boyfriend, a couple of my friends who were in the industry, I guess. And I think a lot, really early, social media was a way to get kind of feedback. Or just seeing that people were liking it or engaging more with it or messaging me about it, and I was like, okay, so it's working. Some people like it, and that was an encouragement that kind of I needed.
I mean, again, I don't want to be nostalgic for the past with sort of rose tinted spectacles, but I do feel like there was a time where social media was a kind of friendlier place. And certainly you could. Certainly when we started out, which was actually a similar time, Twitter was really encouraging. It was a really positive place. You could get feedback from people on your work.
I think now you just have to filter a little bit. Like Instagram, there's loads of negatives, and just focusing on your community of people who you interact with and have positive interactions with. That's what I focus on.
Are you sort of pushing your work a lot on social media? What's your relationship like with it?
Yeah, I went through a bit of a breakup phase with Instagram where I was just like, you know what, this is really shit and it makes me feel terrible and there's no more positive anymore. It just became something completely different. A lot of people I knew were kind of stepping away from it and I was like, maybe I should take a break. And I did, and I kind of changed my relationship with it. I was getting very obsessed and caring way too much about how posts were doing or how many comments were on, and it was getting ridiculous. And I was like, I actually don't care. Like the artists that I follow who follow me back and who really love my work, they're super supportive, and I'm just going to focus on that. But yeah, I had to take a bit of a break and came back, and now I truly don't care.
Yeah.
I just want to post because it's the finality of my work. I'm like, okay, I've done this project and now I just want to share it.
Okay, so it's more of a platform for you just to share the finished product.
Yeah.
So you're not playing you're not doing the reels, you're not.
I do a little bit. Like I quite enjoy doing video editing, and I don't mind when it's about pushing a product or introducing a project. But I do struggle with the sort of daily real, focusing on just maybe me or what I'm doing. I just find it not natural.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because and we had a question recently saying, is it a requirement? Is it a necessity? Do you have to do it? I don't think you do. I think it's optional, really. I think some people do it very well, but you don't have to. Exactly.
I think if it's something that you enjoy and that you can do in a very natural way, then do it. It's fun. But if it doesn't come naturally, then maybe find other ways to. But it's true. I do think it does work. I do think videos get more, reels get more.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. There's no doubt about that.
There's no doubt.
We've seen that. I mean, it's kind of demoralising, but we post projects every day, and for us, like you say, it's just a great platform to share the finished work. But yeah, as soon as you make a video with your face on it, talking to camera, the views are way higher.
Yeah.
What I have found recently, there's a lot of emerging illustrators. They don't even have a website. It's just social media.
Yeah. Which seems insane.
Yeah, but it kind of falsifies that mindset that it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
Social media. That you can only make it in the industry if you've got a really good social following.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's the case.
I think that's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah.
Because as we've seen, platforms come and go. They go through, they have hot moments and then they can disappear. And you're not really in control of your own destiny if you rely on one platform.
Exactly. I feel like that's what was bothering me with Instagram. I started doing work and thinking about my work because of the way people were reacting. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, I should be more, confident about my work. And if I self-assured that actually what I'm doing is good. And it's not because it didn't get as many views or as many likes that it should change what I do. So I think that's when the relationship changed, and I felt like Instagram was giving me feedback.
Yeah.
Instagram was like this really annoying client who wouldn't let go.
So let's talk about themes in your work. I've read a couple of interviews with you online. You've talked about some of this a bit, but you have a very specific way of drawing body shapes. You draw a lot of very kind of curvy women.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think there's definitely like elements of body positivity and female empowerment coming through in your work. How did that come about, and which way around did that come? Was it a kind of a subject you were passionate about and that informed how you drew, or did you just like drawing that and then it kind of went the other way?
I think it was more I just really enjoyed drawing female body from like when I was really young until like when I was doing nude sketches at my school, and then when I started working on creating a style, just very naturally the female body was just a topic I wanted to represent. And then I think from that it gave me a sense of empowerment and positivity to represent women in that way. And so then it's sort of like that fed to more of like the social aspect of it, or like the issue aspect of just talking about the female body and how it's represented and how I aspire to feel and how women should aspire to feel, and actually how everyone should aspire to feel. Because even though my work is focused on female body because I'm a woman, it's very much for everyone to kind of relate to, in the sense of that freeing and that independence and empowerment.
And have you ever had brands or clients push back and say, okay, we don't want that?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Okay, and how does that land with you?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends what their argument is, because if it's just purely their just preference, then I will push it forward a bit more and be like, well, why don't you want a curvy woman? Or why shouldn't there be a bit more diversity in the way we represent the female body? Obviously, then if it's something like, for instance, working with Nike, obviously they're going to want different body types, or they're going to want women that maybe are looking a bit fitter. That's, to me, that makes complete sense. And I'm not going to push back on that feedback, because that's a part of their brand, and what they are pushing forward. So yeah, it depends on the reasoning behind, but I've had some comments on that.
And I love the way that you kind of take that style and then you use it on everything you draw. So you kind of draw very curvy animals.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you know, if you draw a flower, it's very kind of voluptuous.
Yeah. I think this is what I'm having a bit more fun with now, is just also kind of taking those characteristics of the female body, like the curviness and the playfulness and the bounciness, and just also then...
Bouncy is a really good word to describe your work, I think. And
now it's fun to see, bouncy typography or like you say, flowers or objects or animals. I can get out of that a little bit more and play with different forms.
So do you think that's an important step for you, is once you'd established the style, then to see how you can apply it to different areas?
I think so, because I think it's easy to get stuck in doing the same thing over and over again. That's definitely something that I've had issue with, because you're comfortable in what you're drawing. I know how to do it so instantly, and it gives me a lot of pleasure. But I think it's also good to get out of your comfort zone and see what else you can do, which is challenging. And I have to kind of sometimes sit back and be like, okay, do I feel like I've done anything interesting or new recently? And if not, then push that a bit.
So this kind of goes back to you setting yourself another personal brief again.
Yeah, I do love to do that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you find just really hard to draw, or you just don't think works?
I really struggle with cars.
Cars?
I really want to make a curvy car.
I can imagine a curvy car.
Yeah, I just think of remember that bubble car?
A bouncy bubble car.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I feel like that was like my first challenge when I started drawing as a kid, and like I tried to do a car and it didn't work. And
is this like a scenario where your children have been like, Mummy, can you draw a car?
Yeah,
I'm
very worried.
Well, interesting, we've had 2 or 3 car campaigns this year.
Oh, yeah?
We've been drawing cars.
We're doing one at the moment, yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've drawn on cars, but I've not drawn.
Okay, so you want like a wrap?
A wrap, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was really fun.
That's a nice one. So one of the things that I think is really interesting and a very natural evolution of your work, the curviness, the bounciness, is that you've taken that 2D work and moved into kind of the 3D world and made a lot of physical objects. So I've seen you've done kind of ornaments.
We have a candle.
We have a beautiful fairy candle sat on the table in front of us. Here is a little visual prompt. I remember a huge inflatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the largest size that your work has ended up?
I think it was definitely the inflatable, because that was about 5 meters. So what was that, 9?
So this was at the London Illustration Fair?
No, that was actually in Shanghai.
Oh, okay.
That was the first
I
one.
didn't see this one.
And then at the illustration fair, I did a bit of a smaller one myself. But yeah, the biggest one was with a Chinese gallery.
And how does that process start? Because for me, I think generally a lot of clients will commission something like that when they've seen that you've done it.
Yeah.
But did you just happen to go and order a 5 meter?
Basically, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh,
well,
great.
no, I mean, I didn't order the 5 meters straight away, but I did do it myself because I wanted to do things in 3D. But as you say, as long as you don't show it, it's very hard for anyone to visualize that. So I worked with a 3D designer on some renders together. And then I just got way too excited, and I was like, this is great.
How does that process work? So working with a 3D designer,
Yeah.
are they just looking at your illustrations and kind of creating a 3D model, or is there a bit more of a collaboration?
There's way more of a collaboration process where I'll share some sketches of different angles, and then it's basically a whole back and forth thing between.
Because the thing with 3D is that you've got lighting, you've got texture, you've got all these additional kind of options.
Yeah, and it's actually quite hard at the beginning because the rough that the 3D designer
they look
I work
terrible,
with,
don't they?
do. Yeah, they're like not
Like the
merged.
mesh.
It's like there's and I'm like, oh, lovely.
So then that's all right. So then you're basically the client going, oh yeah. Hang on, is it finished yet?
Yeah. I'm the worst client. Yeah. I mean, I hope not.
No,
but
we are. We'd be in the client, and we're really bad at it.
Yeah. And so, he's been very patient with me because I do think I probably gave some pretty, annoying feedback at the beginning, not understanding that the final version was going to be way more polished. But that was the whole process, was to do those renders. And then from that, I created the first sculpture. I found a manufacturer in the UK, and we did like I think it was about 50 centimeter tall sculpture. And then made of resin.
So 3D print. Oh no, I know.
So the master is 3D printed, then they make the mold out of that, and then they pour the resin.
Is that how the candles are done as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
nice.
Exactly.
I want to do this now.
It's fun.
It's so much fun, and there's so much to do as well, because as soon as you go into 3D, the materials you can play with.
I think it's the obvious collaboration is an illustrator and an animator, which often you do something and then you get something new for your portfolio, and that leads to more commercial jobs or whatever. But these other steps that you can take, like 3D or photography or collage, or I don't know, just loads of different things, but collaborating with other artists. I think it's harder to do these days because we're all kind of in our own little bubble. Yeah,
it's hard to get. I think it's the same. It's like that vision of like, oh, I really think that could work, and kind of convincing people. But I mean, I love collaborations, and I think it makes you progress in your work. Like working with animators, it made me even look at my work differently, because I was like, oh yeah, that movement adds information to my character, and now I'm going to take that into account when I'm creating other work. So I think it's so cool.
Well, we had a question about animation.
Yes.
And about, I believe the question was, asking whether you animate or whether you work with somebody else. So tell us about that process and how that's worked for you over the years.
Yeah, I played with animating, but I'm definitely not patient enough.
It's hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard, and I get really obsessed when I start something. So I could spend weeks on it, and I did actually before. But
what program did you use?
I did it all on Procreate. Actually, they have a good, and then I did the sort of post production on After Effects. But it's just too long, and I wasn't good enough, and I would have had to just really make that my focus for a long time to be.
That's the thing we always say to people, is like, if it gets to a point where you're going to devote so much of your time trying to learn something new that it's actually better just to get someone else to do it.
No, I agree. I'm happy that I tried, because I feel like it gave me a notion of how much time they're spending.
Yeah, some understanding.
And same with 3D. I kind of played around with I did like a tutorial thing for a few weeks to understand just the basics, but then I'm very happy to delegate and just find the right person to collaborate with. And so the last 2 years I've been collaborating with a studio in Bulgaria, in Sofia, called Lobster Studio.
Oh, cool.
They're the one And
you did an exhibition
I did,
out there as well? Yeah.
And we actually did like a 30-second longer animation together, and it it was just so much fun because it was definitely a trial and error thing because I did work with other animators before and it just wasn't exactly the right fit.
Yeah.
I think it's the same with 3D. It's the same with any color. You need to find someone who's the right match.
Yes,
for your
I've
work.
spoken to other artists about this, and you need to find somebody that really understands kind of the bones of your work and how you want it to move and the subtleties of it.
I think so for me, animation it's a bit of a left brain, right brain thing. There's a lot of people who can animate, but there's not many creative thinking animators, and they're the ones that you need to try and find. That they can bring those ideas and take a really good illustration and turn it into a really good animation, and it just adds so much more character and energy to it. But it needs that creative mind from the animator.
Absolutely, you need to have that matching, and especially when with characters, like I feel very close to my characters, and if it can very easily look wrong, and I'm like, no, this isn't.
Do you name your characters?
You know what? I don't, and I kind of feel guilty. I've had people asking me that before because there's kind of like a few that are like on the spotlight, but they are unfortunately completely nameless, except calling them my babes. But it stops there.
Okay, all right.
I don't know why. I just didn't. I feel like if I gave them a name, then
you get too attached. You wouldn't be able to let them go.
My heart would be broken, and
Wow. This is getting deep.
So, I was interested, going back to at the start, you said you used to work in black and white a lot, which surprised me because I think colour is a big part of what you do. And you have a very distinctive palette. I mean, it does move around project to project, but it's definitely rooted in certain key colours. What's your relationship with colour like? How has that evolved? How have you found this palette?
Yeah, it was really strange because I think, I was so focused on black and white. I think I had a couple of bad teachers telling me I wasn't good with colors, but I just kind of didn't get it. And I was like, okay, then
great. What a
great way to do this. And I had a bit of a complex on colors, and I was like, I guess I can't do colors ever again. But then obviously snapped out of that, left school, and again just like went to London, and everything, like the creativity here is insane, and there's so much inspiration everywhere, and just I started thinking maybe I could use colors, and I played around with a few different palettes, and I think again it's just like I kind of just thought a little bit about my personality and my character, and I'm quite happy and positive and joyful, and I was like, maybe I should try and find colors that represents that.
Have you ever had to work on a commercial job where you hate the client's color palette?
Yeah, of course I did. But what can you do? That's part of the challenge of working as a commercial artist. Like sometimes you have to make it work, even though the color palette really doesn't work for you. But it's also interesting because sometimes it makes you do something different, and
it pushes it in a different direction.
Yeah. But there's been some. I think the ones I struggle with the most is when there's like really one dominant color, and it's like very, very statementy. And
so you like to work with pinks a lot.
Yes.
Kind of reds. I've got one of your prints in my bedroom actually. Do you know the story of that print?
Is it the one from the book club?
It's the one from the book club, but I bought it just before COVID, just before lockdown.
Oh right.
And then I'd paid for it, but I couldn't get it.
Oh, of course.
So it was like a 6-month wait, and I'd kind of forgotten about it, So when it finally turned up, I was like, oh great, that's a nice happy surprise.
Actually, I forgot I did that. I think the opening show was literally a week before the first lockdown.
That's right.
Like,
and you did the mirror as well in the bathroom.
I did, the mirror.
That's a really nice show.
Yeah, it was really cool. Book club, they do some nice.
They do some nice bit, and I feel like for a time before we represented you, your work was kind of following me around. I went to Attendant. You'd done the coffee cups there, and then there's the doorway in somewhere in East London.
It's on the.
Is it still
Retro
there?
Street.
Yeah, is it still there?
It's still there because it's my friend's. It was my friend's door, and I wanted to do murals. But I obviously hadn't done it before, and again wanted the client to see an example. So he was like, "Well, I've got a door. Just come and paint it."
Amazing.
So I went and I did it, and that actually got me a mural job, which was really fun. And it's still there, and my friend's gone. So the next owner.
John, you were saying you needed your front door repainted.
Well, actually, I do need my front door repainting.
Do you want a really nice curvy?
Do I want to be?
Bouncy.
Do you know what? That would be pretty cool, wouldn't
I
it?
think it would look really good.
I mean, it's quite a statement, so I can understand.
I think it might be
Don't
a
want that.
step too far if I ask our artist to decorate my house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
It'd be
might
great
just
for your
take over.
portfolio.
It's when you get cars crashing outside.
But
Yeah.
I kept seeing your work pop up, and I think that's how we first started talking.
Yeah, I think it was after the book club. I think,
After the book club show. And what was the theme of that show? I can't remember.
It was called À la piscine, and it was about.
See, with my GCSE French,
You
I
do.
know what that means, and I'm so proud of myself.
There you go, French kicking in. And it was just about summer pool
Yeah, that's right.
characters hanging by.
And it was a very hot summer, wasn't it? But we couldn't go anywhere.
We couldn't, no.
Yeah.
No, I was in that area, Old Street, for a few years, and I think I tried everything I could to take over.
Well, it certainly worked.
So it
it was
worked.
like on my radar. Tell us about your book, because you published a book a couple of years ago, didn't you? Was that with
Yeah.
Counterprint?
Yeah, Counterprint, John and Celine. And it was during COVID as well, actually. I had gone to Malika's book signing and and they had done her book as
Oh,
well.
yeah, I went to that. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
And we just started chatting, and we did a little collaboration on a group book exhibition. And then, they were interested in doing a book together. So
Was it like a retrospective of...
yeah, it was like the last sort of 5 years worth of work. Well, maybe more by then, maybe 6, 7. And it was awesome, really, really nice. And something I'm super proud of, because it took a lot of work for both parties, because they were very much a part of the layout and the design.
Yeah, I've heard they're
everything.
very supportive
They're
and very
super
involved.
supportive.
Yeah.
They're very thorough. They have excellent taste. So honestly, it was great. I'd love to do another one down the line, because I feel like that is the thing, though. Like I'm so proud of that book, but sometimes I open it and I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't put that now.
Oh, okay. So you
But
look
that's
at
just
it through different eyes.
Yeah. But I think that's also what's interesting. Is like ideally I can do a bunch of those throughout my career.
But yeah, because it's I guess making a physical book as opposed to an online portfolio is like a physical timestamp of where you are at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's a nice chronology of your work, and you can just look back, which is cool.
Maybe a book every decade.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So actually, maybe not in that long.
Yeah. So when did that come out then?
2020. I remember, because we couldn't do a book launch because of COVID,
Because of
because of the
COVID.
lockdown.
Okay.
So almost.
Yeah. So you're almost
4 or 5
halfway
years
to
ago.
your next
halfway
book.
through, yeah. So need to start thinking.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a really beautiful thing. I urge people to seek it out and find a copy.
Thank you.
Kills, I was going to ask you about.
Oh yeah.
Seeing as it's nearly Christmas.
Yes.
And that was a very festive campaign.
It was.
Is that the biggest commercial job you've done?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure, because of just how long it took and the amount of work needed. But yeah, I did their 2021 Christmas campaign.
Yeah.
And
And-
how soon before Christmas did it start?
A year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a year. I pitched for it in Christmas 2020. In January, I think we found out that we got it, and then that was 8 months of production before they just went.
So you were drawing. So by the time Christmas rolled around, were you sick of it that year?
Oh, yeah. So done. No, it's not true, because I was only focusing on me producing the artwork, but then it was only much shorter before the launch that I started seeing the actual products that they were putting together, and they really do a good job at
So this
printing
was,
and everything.
you did illustrations that went on packaging all across their gift range. You did animations, windows.
Window
it was pretty
displays.
holistic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was really, it was a lot of different things. There was product design, packaging design, and the installations. It's a shame because there was a bit of limitation, again, because it was COVID time. But it was super cool. And I went to their HQ shop in New York, and they had like all the illustrations displayed. It was.
And did you know that they were going to do that, or was that a bit of a surprise?
No, honestly, they were, apart from the animation, which I had no idea was happening, and that they basically shared.
Oh, so you
Like
were
a day
oblivious.
before, I was like, what? This looks
It
amazing.
moves.
Thankfully, it moves.
Some clients do that. We did a job, Luis Mendo, and we found this animation. It was really nicely done.
Yeah,
But the client had
it's-
never shared it.
No, they never even whispered about it. It's so weird because everything else, they really, especially the product, they were really showing me all the steps. And same with the installation, they were telling me what they were planning and stuff. And just, it's just the
you
animation
go.
was just kept under the. But it was a great surprise. And
And did you work client direct on that?
Yes. And that was really challenging because it's a huge team. Like Kiehl's is L'Oréal, and it's like so many people gradually were getting onto the feedback. And I actually did a talk about that in Paris last week about like how much of a challenge it was to just keep things going in the right direction because when there's so many people involved.
So
the
there's one of
feedback-
you, or
one of
maybe,
me.
or maybe you've got an agent with you, but you're outnumbered,
Yeah,
and there's
definitely outnumbered.
20, 30 people giving you
Yeah.
feedback.
And more coming,
Yeah.
and people coming later on, not necessarily having picked.
Oh, that one.
That one where
Yeah.
they're suddenly like, why, why are they so curvy, or why don't they have eyes and stuff like that? So obviously, there's like I had to kind of keep my ground and make my voice heard, but they really trusted me in the process. And at some point, it could have gone wrong, just because they wanted to sort of make it a bit less fun, a bit more traditional, which was not the brief initially that they gave me. So I had to just kind of be like, no. Remember,
good.
we're
This-
doing something trendy.
But I
we're
think
doing
it's
something
really
cool.
important, and I always say this to our clients at the offset, it's you are hiring an expert. You should listen to them.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think as an illustrator, one of the most important skills you can learn is when to push back and what to push back on,
Absolutely.
and when to compromise and
Yeah.
when to kind of stand your ground.
I completely agree. It took me a while. I used to just say yes to everything because I didn't even understand I had a role to
voice,
play
yeah.
or a voice. I was just like, no, they are the clients. I'm just going to do exactly what they want. But then when you start doing that, then very quickly, I think the end result isn't what you wanted, or you're a bit disappointed, or you don't really like the outcome of the project, which is such a shame. So then, finding the right balance between, making sure you defend your work as much as possible.
But what's interesting about Kiehl's is I think you successfully created kind of a sub-style for them. It's almost like it's very you, but there's a little twist on it, so it kind of becomes ownable for the brand, if you like.
I think it was a really good match, to be honest, with the brand in general. But I'm really happy with the end result. And
you've worked with some great clients. Who's on the list that you still want to tick off?
I would love to work with a fashion brand. I think that's been something.
Creating actual products?
Creating products, or like their window display or their store display. I really love working with spaces now. I think working more on exhibitions and with galleries, I find that really exciting to have that.
I could see your work being adapted to repeat patterns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Put onto fabric. I think that would be really, really nice.
I would love that. So like.
But do you think
brands like
that's
that.
another thing that you have to kind of show it before it's going to happen?
I do, and I think it's on my to-do list of just like fictional
to mock something
clothing
up.
brand. Yeah.
I mean, I do think we've been lucky enough to work on a couple this year. We've worked with Hoff a couple of times, and I think fashion brands are interested in capsule collections with illustrators.
Yeah.
Because it gives them a story, it gives them and it gives them content, and it's collaborative.
Yeah. I think that's also why I like the idea of it. I do like it when brands really show it more as like a collaboration with the artist
and name the artist
and
and
just really.
I think that's on the rise. So if there's anyone out there that wants to work with Marylou,
Yes, I can mock up something for you.
Do get in touch. What would be the dream? I mean, trainers, dresses, like what would be the...
Oh, this is hard. I think more like actual clothing, like dresses and jackets and jumpers and stuff.
Yeah, I could see like some kind of... Actually, knitwear would be good.
Yeah, knitwear. That would be dreamy. Something, in the lines of like... I mean, Lazy Oaf does really cool collaborations with really great artists. And then basically all the brands that I like Ganni or Brain Dead or Palm, Perks and Mini, like stuff like that, like where the artwork is really put forward in a nice way and then produced in a nice way.
Yeah. All right, bucket list for next year then.
Yeah.
Where do you work now, Marylou? Because you were in a shared space, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in a shared space with Hattie, my friend Hattie, Stuart and Anu Kilpalainen, and then before that, Sarah Anderson.
That looked like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I have to say, I think I went to the studio more to just chat and just
So
take
4
off.
of you kind of mates, but,
Yeah.
you know, all admire each other's work.
Yeah, so basically, I didn't know these girls until a few years ago, until about 5 years ago. And I saw that It's Nice that did this little video presenting their studio. And I remember thinking that they were the coolest people in the world. And I was like, oh my God, in this studio, the dream, Lana. And then completely randomly, that next year, I met them for the first time, knowing that I had followed their work for ages.
Did you fangirl a bit, or did you play it cool?
Oh, I was definitely fangirling. Oh, no, I was very straightforward. I was like, I love you. I love your work. But the nice surprise was that they knew my work too, and they were super friendly, and we just really clicked. And then, I think spent like that whole year after COVID just hanging out together. And then after that, I came and I shared the studio with them. And it was really fun. And it was super interesting to just chat about our experience with projects in the creative industry, and just they're very good. I think we're all good together, motivating each other and kind of bigging each other up, because sometimes you just need someone to.
I think it's really
be in your
because
corner.
it's such an isolating job. If you're freelance and you work from home and you don't have colleagues, you don't have peers, you don't have anyone to bounce off.
It's really hard to evolve.
Exactly.
If you're working in an agency and you've got that creative department, you're surrounded by those people. Whether you want to or not. But you've got people to ask, what do you think of this? And that's really important.
It's really cool. And also it made us even do little collaborative works together, and that also makes you evolve. And I think it was just after the lockdowns, and I was like, if I don't leave the flat, I'm going to die. I need to leave. And so it aligned pretty well.
So what happened? Studio is no more?
Studio is no more, because I think we just each had different plans. Like, I'm potentially moving out of London. Anu was just not exactly sure what she was going to do. Hattie was looking for maybe somewhere bigger. So then, we just thought, we kept saying we were going to go, and then kept extending our contract, and then eventually we're like, okay, no, I think we should just do it. But it was very sad, and it was it was definitely a chapter ending.
End of an era.
End of an era, beginning of a new one.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself moving to? Have you?
Well, very likely France and Bordeaux. But it's a big step, because London's it's a hard city to leave. But
We have another artist in Bordeaux.
do you?
Yeah, Jonathan Burton.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Because my French agent, she introduced me to 2 artists there. But perfect, it's good at that. Yeah, I think I just, I kind of need a little break. I think London's definitely a city I'm going to live in again. But I just feel like, just
Check out for a little bit.
Check out a little bit.
Because you became a mum
I did,
18 months ago. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And has that changed your relationship with London a bit, or?
A little bit, I think, which is funny because I grew up in London, so it's not as if I have a bad example of kids growing up there. But I do think it's just made me want to have more space, maybe get closer to the sea, to the ocean. I'd love my kid to be a little surfer, little skater. Well, skater, he can be here for sure. But I don't know. I just thought maybe for those years when he's still quite young.
This is what I've said. So a lot of people have kids in London when they're young, and then they move out when they're teenagers, and they just become bored teenagers. And you need to do it the other way, where you have the kids young out, and then when they're the teenagers, that's when you move back.
That's what I think.
I know that's hard to do.
I think it's hard to do, but that's kind of what I'm imagining. Us leaving now and then coming back maybe when Malo is, early teenage years. But we'll see. But it's kind of, I feel like we needed a bit of a change. I mean, we're also in just...
But you've travelled a bit this year, haven't you? Do you find, does travel inspire you? Is it part of your work? Does it seep into what you're drawing? Yeah,
I get a bit restless. So I think it's good for me to change my environment from time to time. And so we've always done that. And my husband's the same. He kind of feels like suddenly he needs just something completely different. So we've been traveling to France and Spain quite a bit. We went to LA for a few months as well, a couple of years ago, and just kind of changed the setup and live a bit of a different life for a few months and then come back. It's
that thing again of putting yourself out of your comfort zone.
It's
funny, you suddenly realise you don't, if you need milk, you know where to go when you're at home. But if you completely change everything, even those small decisions become new.
And
there's it can be a hard thing to do, but it's I think it's great, especially for kids as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think because my character, I love a routine otherwise. I'm very happy to be in my own ways. So I think if I really didn't do that, then I would really have a very similar day-to-day life. So I kind of want to break that by, and I'm lucky because I can, with the fact that I'm flexible, Chris is flexible with his work, and then right now Milo is young enough.
I mean, this is the time to do it, right?
This is the time.
Before schools.
You get in the school system.
Before schools and stuff. So yeah, that's is something that I really enjoy, and I do think it does help with my creative process as well, because I just see other things. It's just as simple as that.
I think that, that's it, isn't it? It's suddenly everything is of interest, and you're looking at everything, and you're more aware of your surroundings. And, it certainly breaks things up.
Well, if you do end up in Bordeaux, happy to do a house swap back in London for a while.
Yeah, great.
Hans and Frank house swaps.
Yeah, that's the deal.
You're really pushing this one, aren't you?
No, I am. Yeah, no, I've got one lined up for next summer.
Yeah, I think
in La
it's
Rochelle.
great. No, but I love that though. I think it's something that everyone should do.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. We did ask on social media for some questions.
Yes.
We had a few in. So we'll go through those. Are there any new mediums or techniques you're excited to explore?
I would love to explore more painting. I think I've done a lot of originals for my latest show where I use Posca pens, but and I really love it because I think that's the only time where the colors are matching with my palette. But I would love to play with scale and just try something bigger.
I was going to ask, how big would you go?
I want to go really big.
I think you need to, yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to. I think that's the point of trying something different.
What, gouache or?
I don't know. I need to try.
I mean, just big, bold colours. I think it has to be.
Because my work is so flat, like it leads to painting, I think, because you can get something pretty neat. But again, I think I just need the space for that and being able to just have a massive canvas and try it out, which I've not been able to do.
I can picture you now in Bordeaux, with, it's a huge studio,
a little glass
lights.
of wine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the plan, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Another question, what do you hope people take away when they see your work? How do you want to make them feel?
I mean, positive emotions for sure. Joy, feeling, maybe having a little giggle looking at it, just like kind of a relaxing moment, and maybe hopefully a little bit inspiring, especially when it's about how you feel within your body and everything. But yeah, just those positive emotions, which I hope is what people get.
Yeah, I think that works. Yeah, I've got that print on my wall.
And that's what it gives you.
That's what it says to me every morning.
You look great, John.
Thank you. Thanks. And one last question here. It says, you've worked on projects supporting social and environmental causes. How do you choose those projects, and why is that important to you?
Yeah, I think because when I worked in at the agency, it was only focused on social and ethical.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Projects. So it was incredible. The projects we were getting were amazing. And then when I went freelance, I sort of lost that because suddenly I wasn't. People weren't coming to me for that. They were coming for my style. And so, I started just kind of collaborating a lot on pro bono projects and working with charities to kind of put my work.
So you'd approach the charities? Okay.
So that I could get that as part of a core thing in my style and as part of why you would be hiring me.
Yeah, and again, if you can show it, then people will ask for it.
And that really worked, and it helped, especially working with clients on projects about anything to do with female empowerment and any issues around that. And I think that's sort of naturally came into the type of projects that I got, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, so you're hoping to do more of that.
Yeah, for sure.
In the coming year. Fantastic. Well, I think we're almost done. As it's Christmas, though,
yes,
nearly, I was just going to ask, what's your favourite Christmas film?
Ooh. Well, actually, I don't have a Christmas film, but I will watch most of the Disneys again.
Okay, so you go back through the classics.
I go out through the classics. And usually around that time, I do watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy again.
Yes, that's on my list. Yes.
edition.
That's what?
Yeah.
This is on
It's
my
a
list.
Christmas
Yeah.
thing?
Well, no.
You just have
No.
time, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a time thing.
It's just a feel good. It makes you feel,
I've only ever watched them once.
Tom,
Also,
you need
is
to-
Die Hard a Christmas film? That's the other thing.
I think I've watched Die Hard once, and I think I've only watched it because it was part of a Christmas project
Oh, okay.
where I had to illustrate Bruce Willis as a reindeer.
Nice.
Which was very
Nice,
strange.
nice.
Die Hard is
okay.
definitely a Christmas film.
Yeah.
Well, maybe my kids would like these.
But this
do
is
have
so.
to spend time
Yeah,
for
I watched all the Lord of the Rings films with my eldest, who's 15 now, about 5 years ago, and we had to lock the younger two out of the room because it was too.
Oh, right. Do you do
So I think now the other two are old enough.
Did he like it?
He loved it,
Okay, because
yeah.
I think my heart will break if Milo just turns around and be like, it's a bit shit, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had that.
There's a new animated Lord of the Rings film out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
That looks really good.
I can't wait. And actually, I don't know if anyone's watched Arcane yet.
No.
Have you watched that series? It's honestly incredible.
Okay.
And I watched season 2, and I think I'm just going to have to rewatch it. all in
Okay,
one
so
go.
what's that on?
Arcane, it's on Netflix. And it's based on the League of Legends game,
Oh yeah.
which I play. And
Oh, you're a bit of a gamer.
a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, not a serious gamer, but I do like to play. I love Zelda and Wild Rift and stuff like that. And they did a series on the characters, and it's honestly everything about it. Visually, it's incredible. The voice acting is incredible. The music, the script, everything.
Well, there you go. That's a
So
recommendation.
there you go, my recommendation. It's not at all Christmassy. It's actually quite dark, but
I'm quite interested that you're a gamer. Is that how you kind of switch off?
yeah, for sure. Reading, playing, watching movies is like the ultimate way for me to
Yeah.
not think. And I love, I honestly think this is why, like, parents who are being super strict about the gaming with their kids, obviously I understand there's a balance to find, but I find that playing really helps me to be a bit more focused and a bit more like, if something happened and it was all fast paced, how would I react?
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not good naturally.
Yeah.
I just
I would
freeze.
rather my kids play a game and be active in
Yeah.
their screen time than just passively watch YouTube or TikTok.
Exactly. Although I would recommend to mute the messages, which I've done because I got like insulted by a 12-year-old and I was like, okay, this isn't fun.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, I used to think I was quite good at FIFA, and then I got bullied by like 10-year-olds online.
It's a rough world out there.
It is a rough world
So
out
yeah,
there.
I like instantly Chris was like, just mute the message, sweetie. And I was like, okay.
There you go. Another tip. Well, thank you so much for coming in. It was really
No
nice
worries.
Really good.
Yeah,
to
really
sit down
nice.
and chat, and have a lovely Christmas with your family.
Thank you very much.
And
You guys too.
yeah, we look forward to knitwear,
Yeah.
fashion collaborations, drawing cars,
And
painting.
And a
painting in
computer
Bordeaux.
game. Come on, surely.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be another dream
There
for
we
sure.
are. Okay, gaming. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
And if you'd like to know more about Handsome Frank and our artists, check out our website, handsomefrank.com.
Thanks very much for listening.
Handsome Frank.
Is Die Hard a Christmas film?
I had to illustrate Bruce Willis as a reindeer.
Die Hard is definitely a Christmas film.